we have that equitable distribution of resources, so that if you decide it is 50 kilometers per county, we all benefit from 50 kilometers per county, so that regions like Busia can also get a road, a tarmac road, from Butula all the way to Amukura and Teso South, and other counties. Secondly, Nairobi Expressway was constructed to ease congestion along the highway. But sometime in January, the toll charges were increased. This defeats the purpose for which it was intended. Because now how do you reap from, how do you encourage people to use the highway and also benefit from economies of scale? What are your thoughts on the kind of charges that are being levied on the expressway? Thank you.
Amisi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You asked for one question, but I beg you, give me two, because the last one is important for me. The first,
start with the important one.
The very, very important one, Mr. Speaker, is that I come from a constituency that do not have even a single kilometer of road of bitumen standard, and it has been like that since time immemorial. Mostly they say because it has been represented by
and also benefit from economies of scale. What are your thoughts on the kind of charges that are being levied on the expressway? Thank you.
Amisi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You asked for one question, but I beg you, give me two, because the last one is important for me. The first,
start with the important one.
The very, very important one, Mr. Speaker, is that I come from a constituency that do not have even a single kilometer of road of bitumen standard, and it has been like that since time immemorial. Mostly they say because it has been represented by opposition leaders, but I doubt. 20 months ago, we were here with the predecessor of this ministry, and I did ask him the same question, and he said that in 100 days, I will see miracles. Now it's 20 months down the line. I want to ask you, when do I expect to see at least a kilometer of bitumen standard in my constituency? And it's not just my constituency, Mr. Speaker. It is a program that needs to check that there is equal distribution of road network across the country, irrespective of where the region falls, whether it's in opposition or in the government. But there must be a clear national rationalization program of all constituencies, so that if a kilometer is built in Mombasa, there is another kilometer built in Kitale. We must have that one, so that the constituents don't think that it is a failure of a member of parliament when it is actually the failure of proper program of the ministry. And then the question I wanted to ask, Mr. Speaker, is that our roads and infrastructure are majorly World Bank funded, and IMF, International Monetary Fund. Mr. Speaker, World Bank were financial institutions that started to reconstruct Europe after the war on Europe, after the World War II. There were proper development in Europe before. The purpose of World Bank was to reconstruct Europe after the World War II, including Japan and other Asian countries. Now, it is 80 years since the World War II ended. We are still reconstructing. The purpose of that World Bank is not commensurate to the issues of the global south. In this country, we've never had war, whether it's local, global, even the Mau Mau did not destroy any road. We cannot talk about a fund that used to reconstruct, coming to develop an underdevelopment. So, Minister, you are going to a ministry that is heavily, we know the roads network is capital intensive, but you are going to a ministry that is going to be heavily dependent on the Bretton Woods institutions, whose purpose of establishment is completely different for the developmental path of our country. Do you have any policies of change that will ensure that this country does not continuously depend on external funding, loans that are crippling our economy, loans that we are continuously at the yoke of external loans. Which policies are you going to depend on them? World Bank, number one, and the IMF, or you are going to change? And in which way are you going to change?
Yes, nominee.
Let me start with Honorable Mary Emase's question on, yes, if we make it brief, let me just answer yes, we'll do some equitable distribution of resources. Maybe
that's good enough.
We'll do that.
Yes.
And I think that really answers Kalip Hamisi's question, Honorable Kalip, for Saboti. The Bank of Reconstruction being what it is today. The
point of order, Mr. Speaker. That's how I was answered by the predecessor. I don't want to fall into the same. I just ask, do you have any rationalization program that will ensure, not just Saboti, that every part of this country has an equal distribution of red network, so that Saboti will also benefit?
Thank you, Chair. I was not going to make the 30 days promise to Mheshimiwa, but I was certainly going to, like I said, in respect to the answer to Mary Emase Mheshimiwa, that we'll try to work together to see equitable distribution of resources, look at how to open up this country economically because of ensuring that we need to get the products to market. But more importantly, like I said earlier, what are the alternative funding options? I did make my opening remarks that we are doing our best in energy to get power to get into every corner of this country. And we are using a lot of off-balance sheet we are not getting money from the National Treasury. So to the extent that we today are having an unfunded commitment of about $1 billion, we'll need to sit together to be able to look at the resources that come out of Treasury. Are we going to get it to the Ministry of Roads or State Department of Roads as printed estimates, or are we going to work together to equitably ensure that those printed estimates do cover every part of the country? Mheshimiwa Hamisi, I will really want to be a player in sitting down with all the honorable members to ensure equitable distribution. And like you said, what are the options of funding roads? We'll look at that together, more importantly, to ensure that we don't over-rely on the Bank of Reconstruction after the World War. We do have other options.
Mukami.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. There is a...
Chairman.
Okay. Okay.
Honorable
Okay.
Speaker, a point of
thank you.
information.
Yes,
Honorable Speaker, allow me to solve this issue of chair and the chairman. And if you go to the dictionary, it actually says that one, as a noun, a separate seat for one person. Secondly, as a verb, a person in charge of a meeting.
that I am not a chair. Go on, Mukami.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
These are, Honorable Waziri, there is a concern from the local contractors. They have raised concern about being overlooked in the awarding of contracts in the roads and transport sector, with the preference often shown for foreign contractors. This trade results in the repatriation of earnings. That means those contractors, the foreign contractors we are giving business here, they are not banking that money here in this country. What specific measures would you introduce to encourage the participation of local contractors and ensure they have a fair chance in the contract award process? Additionally, how will these measures help retain money within the country to boost our economy? Thank you.
Nishi, be like your neighbor, one question.
Chairman, I have two questions. One is a very short one because it is an ongoing problem which I've just witnessed in my constituency and other constituencies.
But Chairman, I don't think it's fair. When you say one question, other people are asking two questions.
I'm going to stop her after one.
Thank you,
Chairman. I've seen my colleague here, they have asked two questions. Dawood, Emase, Amisi, yeah. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, my first question on the Erupted project. This project has been a milestone from the last regime and even the current regime. And to me, this is a project where can be a game changer in terms of our economy, be it locally or internationally. Billions of shillings have been consumed, be it for compensation and even building of the port. Currently, what is the status in terms of operationalization in the Erupted corridor? 2, what unique approaches are you going to do to ensure that we fully realize operationalization of this port of Lamu? My second question, on the same breath, do you have any specific programs you intend to employ to ensure that you create employment to our youth? Because this has been a thorn issue. In fact, even His Excellency the President has been talking about it, that we need to have a national conversation and we address the issue of unemployment, especially to our youth. Lastly, but not least, it is on the issue of duplication of road works among 3 entities, the county government, the Kura, and Kera. In most of cases, there are scenarios whereby a road has been built by the county government, Kura is doing some repair and maintenance, Kera is also doing some repair and maintenance, and you don't know which fund it's been lost just in the middle of that. So we need to have classification, a proper classification of roads, so that we know this road belongs to county government, and these other roads belong to, they're under the entity of Kera, Kura, and Kenha. There is a lot of duplication, especially Kura and county government. For Kena, I think it's okay. For Kera, it's somewhat okay. But Kura and county government. Thank you.
Nominee, you know you are not a minister for roads yet, so you are only giving your futuristic plans if you get there.
Thank you again, Honorable Speaker, Chairman. The question from Mukami regarding Erupted and the equal opportunities for employment of the youth. You know, Chair, we've done something, Chairman, we've done something in the procurement where we did deliberate policy to be able to allow the youth and women PWDs at 30%. It's a question of implementation, but we need to have a deliberate policy to ensure that our local companies are really having a stake in building over roads. We'll need to work together to look at that policy to ensure that there is a fair way of ensuring that we are able to build our companies so that in the years to come, we should be like other countries where we are even exporting contractors to other destinations to build infrastructure. Regarding employment for the youth, I think it's an important area where if we don't address the question of the youth, it's a time bomb waiting to happen, and it's already happening. So we need to work very closely together to ensure that we do have the kind of initiatives that we have seen before, where we had, for example, Kasi Mitaani, deliberate policy for the foreign contractors. When they come in, they are not the ones operating those machines, because just to say, Chairman, in Kenyan or GDC, we do the drilling of those steam wells. We build power plants with Kenyans. It cannot be that when contractors come to build our roads, even the operators are of foreign whatever, to be able to employ our youths. We need to address that. So we need a deliberate policy to ensure that we are able to employ our youths. The opening up of the infrastructure in the SEZs, which is one area where we need to work very quickly. We are opening Dongo Kundu. It's a lot of work from roads and transport. We are going to be opening all those, as he said, we need to deliberately work quickly in those various areas, including the Erupted corridor, just to marry the question of Mukami and Mishimbogo, that Erupted is a new development corridor, just like Mombasa all the way to Kisumu. The developments are about 50 kilometers on either side of the road. when we really move quickly, it's in the interest of the country to open that corridor to support South Sudan, to support Ethiopia, to support our oil exports, to support what we need to do to open a new development corridor and possibly reduce the cost of land around the 50 kilometers on either side of the northern corridor that is currently so congested. So the question of youth is a central aspect in really ensuring what the economic advisors have basically said. Can we do more of capital-intensive investment, or do we do more of what would be labor-intensive investments? It's a question of how do we employ our capital? Do we employ capital to create jobs, or do we employ capital to get big returns because the owners of capital basically just want to get return and they don't care about creating jobs for our youth? So we look at those policies, Mheshimiwa, to ensure that we do really address the challenge of the youth. Lamu would certainly be a new city as soon as we open Lapset because of that destination in terms of the port and the challenge that we have today. We have 3 ports which have been built, so much money sunk there, we need that port to be functioning. I know we only used it the other day to ship the fertilizer. We have used it again to ship the cattle to the Middle East. We need to quickly work together to see how that port can return on the investment that has been put on that. Kura, Kera, and Kena is something we look at together. Are there duplication of roles? I think in the 47 parastatals that was supposed to be, we are seriously going to be looking, once confirmed, at where there are duplication, we can be able to hem in and cut cost. Thank you, Chairman.
Shuria. Yes, Mukami.
Chairman.
Yes.
Waziri, you've not answered the measures you are going to take to make sure that the foreign contractors, they are going to retain the money in our country instead of taking their money in their country. Thank you. Out of the country.
Hold that, Shuria.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Speaker. Nominee Waziri Chirchir. My question is on what informs road agents, especially Kura and Kenha. I ask this with the knowledge that damaged roads in NEP counties in recent floods were unattended for months, hindering mobility of people and critical goods and services, while in other parts restoration was immediate. If approved, would you be able to do the same? God forbid, we don't want it to flood again and get our roads damaged, but what would you do differently to attend to them emergencies? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very good. You should all be like Shuria. Yes, Razo.
Shuria. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Chirchir, Shuria. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Chirchir, I think listening to you, personally, I feel that sessional paper number 10 of 1965 is alive and it is likely to be refined. Why am I saying this? There are constituencies without a kilometer of tarmac road in Kenya. While when we drive around, there are constituencies with almost 70–80% of
the same. God forbid, we don't want it to to flood again and get our roads damaged, but what would you do differently to attend to them emergencies? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very good. You should all be like Churia. Yes, Razo.
Sure. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Churchill, I think listening to you, personally, I feel that sessional paper number 10 of 1965 is alive and it is likely to be refined. Why am I saying this? There are constituencies without a kilometer of tarmac road in Kenya. While when we drive around, there are constituencies with almost 70, 80% of very well-paved network. Electricity penetration. I think at least majority of the constituencies could be at 30, 40%, which is really a plus. So I think you have a big task ahead of you if the House is going to approve your nomination.